Welcome to the Dead Zone. It's week 10. It's week 10. We're live Saturday night. Got two shows simultaneously on the Yards Per Fantasy YouTube channel. Check out Steven and Ryan. They're going live right now. Start sit show for them. But we're gonna do our usual. We're gonna do our usual on this show. We're gonna go through the rankings, kind of stress test the week 10 rankings, go through the top 20 or so running backs, top 20 or so wide receivers, talk it through, make any changes that we think we need to make at the last minute. You know, if you don't like something about my rankings, let's chat it up. Let's chat it up. Let's talk. Let's talk it out. And we'll possibly make a change live on air. We've done it before. And you can see it immediately reflected right on the website. I'll hit the button right here. I got it. We got you. One thing I want to talk about real quick before we get into the rankings. There's a little momentum in the media last few days talking about if the Patriots lose to the Colts in Germany tomorrow morning, the Patriots going to fire Bill Belichick on the way home. Leave his ass in Germany. I ain't buying it. There's no way. You can't. There's no way, right? There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. I mean, any other 2-8 team, sure. I'm all for it. And as a Patriots fan, I'm ready. I'm ready for the change. It's time. It's time to happen. But in 2024, not halfway through the 2023 season. What is that going to get you? What is that going to get you? Nothing. It gets you nowhere. Nothing is going to change. It's not going to be all of a sudden, whoa, they're going to turn it around with Gerard Mayo as the head coach, interim guy. No, it's not going to happen. So it makes no sense. Now, it also makes no sense. Like, it's just disrespectful as fuck, right? This is the guy. This is not. Josh McDaniels, who's been there for breakfast and doesn't even make it through lunch like he did, in Denver. It's not Josh McDaniels. This is not Hugh Jackson. This is not Freddie Kitchens. Go on and on and on. It's not Dennis Allen. This is Bill Belichick. This is arguably the greatest head coach in NFL history. This is unarguably a Hall of Fame head coach. It's a guy who's won 6 Super Bowls. He's been there for, this is season 24 in New England, I believe, for Bill Belichick. 6 Super Bowls. They've been to multiple others. I know it's been rough. It's been terrible. I'm ready for the change. I'm ready. But you don't do it midway through the season. You don't do it midway through the season in this circumstance. You don't do it. And I don't think they will do it. I think Robert Kraft, he respects the legacy of Bill Belichick, the legacy of the Patriots, far too much to make that type of a move at this point in the season. What's going to happen is at the end of the year, they're going to have a conversation. They're going to sit down, be like, hey, this ain't working anymore. You don't have your Binky Brady anymore. It's over. It's time to go. If you want to say, hey, I'm going to retire, we're okay with it. Otherwise, we're going to fire your ass. That I'm fine with. Midway through the season, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think, like I said, it would be tragic. It would be disrespectful. And what's it going to get you? It's going to get you nowhere. That's my little rant. To start this show. And I'm going to start working on sharing my screen so we can start the rankings, start going through the top 20 running backs for week 10. So bear with me as I do that. Here we go. of the running backs. And then we need to go here. All right. Here we go. Of course, I had the screen ready to go, and it's going to reload. I've been having some technical difficulties leading up to this show tonight. So if internet craps out or something freezes, I apologize. Watch Steven and Ryan's show if you want a smooth, clean, no technical difficulties show. This one ain't it. Although we did get a little help on improving the show last week. If you missed that one, thanks to my guy Matt pointing out the obvious that these players are in alphabetical order. That was quite the moment because I went weeks doing this show. We've done this show all season long. I spend half the show struggling my way through these player pictures that I thought, because apparently I didn't look close enough. I just wasn't paying attention. I'm also an idiot. But I thought they were just random. They were just randomized. Any order here. They're not. They're not. They are in alphabetical order. Hello. So this is going to make for a much cleaner, much smoother, probably faster show than we've had in the past, because you're not going to have to watch me sit here and struggle. Where's this guy? Where's this guy? They are in alphabetical order. Although, to be fair, if you look at the middle here, it doubles up. So it does, okay, that throws it off a little bit. So each player's in here 2 or 3 times. Interesting. But we'll have a much better show tonight for that reason. So let's just kick it off with the running backs, right? Kick it off with the running backs. Obvious. The top tier is obvious, right? It's always obvious. We get Christian McCaffrey back this week from bye week. So we're going to put him in that number 1 tier. Usually is in that tier all by himself, and I think he'll be there again this week. It's all by himself. The S tier for the running backs is reserved for Christian McCaffrey. He's a stud, all-purpose running back, dominant player. He's just absolutely dominant. We really don't need to talk about him. Let's move on to the number 2, and we will start a new tier here with Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler got it going. He got it going last week. He got it going. He had the week before, had a little injury scare with his other ankle, tweaking it up a little bit, but he seemed like he was fine. Didn't bother him last week. And with no Mike Evans. I always call him Mike Evans. Mike Williams. No Mike Williams. No Josh Palmer now. They're really starting to rely on Eckler even more in the passing game than we normally see, which is great for us who roster Austin Eckler, because they've only got one wide receiver. His name's Keenan Allen. Other than that, they got nobody. It would have been pretty cool. Would have been really, really cool if if the Chargers had used their first round pick on a wide receiver, like a real one. I know they drafted Quentin Johnson, but they could have drafted Jordan Addison. They could have drafted Zay Flowers. Those guys would have been killing it right now in Los Angeles with no Mike Williams and no Josh Palmer. And you better believe those guys would have beat out Josh Palmer in the preseason, in training camp. They would have started the season as the wide receiver 3. Yeah. But Quentin Johnson, epic bust. Any chance I get to talk about that, I will, even if it goes from Austin Eckler to Quentin Johnson, and we'll make it work. Epic bust. Number 3 running back, we're going to keep him in the same tier. It's Breece Hall. Breece Hall, super talented, super explosive. And I think we had a show last night. We did a personalized podcast episode. We do that for dynasty leagues and even redraft leagues. We were doing last night for a league, and we were talking about Breece Hall. And Dennis mentioned that, I didn't verify this, but it sounds about right. Dennis mentioned that the last 3 touchdowns that the Jets have scored over the last few weeks, which they score like 1 a week, so The last 3 offensive touchdowns they've scored have all been explosive plays from Breece Hall because that offense can't do anything else except for get the ball to Breece Hall and just hope that he makes a man miss and uses his speed and explosion to get to the end zone because Zach Wilson is not getting better, man. He's not getting better. It's not getting better. It's tragic. Hey, and if you're in a dynasty league right now and have an opportunity to go buy low-ish on a Garrett Wilson, I would highly recommend doing that. Highly recommend. All right. Next running back is going to be Travis Etienne. I think we'll keep it in that same tier. Travis Etienne has been, man, he's been good, man. He's been scoring touchdowns pretty much weekly, multiple touchdowns pretty much weekly. I believe, coming off the bye week, there we go. We're going to freeze up a little bit here, I think. Coming off the bye week, Travis Etienne, I believe, has scored multiple touchdowns in like 3 or 4 straight games. Maybe that was heading into the week prior to that, but went a stretch, at least, with scoring multiple touchdowns every single week for 3 straight weeks. So he's been dominant, catching passes like he did in college. He didn't catch him last year, so it's pretty cool that they kind of brought that skill back for him. Alvin Kamara is the RB5. His usage got pulled back a little bit last week. It did, significantly, as they try to ramp up Jamal Williams a little bit, but I'm not too worried about it. Derek Carr's been a check down machine, and that has really, really, really favored Alvin Kamara. So we're getting easy top 5 running back, especially going against the Vikings. RB6, Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is back. Jonathan Taylor is fully back. The days of Zach Moss are done. It's over. Zach Moss is dead. Zach Moss is in the coffin. Zach Moss has dirt pouring on him as we speak. He's laying there. It's over. Done. Jonathan Taylor is back. He had a 74% snap share, I believe, last week. Got a ton of carries, kind of getting involved in the passing game. Absolutely in the clear. Go buy Jonathan Taylor if you have a chance to do it. I think he's going to have a great second half of the season. That offense is running a ton of plays. They're running at a fast pace. They're running a ton of plays. That's really great for fantasy football. And it's going to be really great for Jonathan Taylor. Even if they're throwing the ball a lot, it's going to be great for Jonathan Taylor. And without Anthony Richardson to steal touchdowns from him at the goal line, what else is going to hold him back? So wheels up on Jonathan Taylor rest of the season. Josh Jacobs also, I believe, wheels up rest of season, although he does have a difficult matchup. Going against the Jets this week. But I talked about him this week as a buy low, or not necessarily buy low, but a buy, just a buy. Go get Josh Jacobs. And after this week, if he does struggle against the Jets, because they got a tough defense, man. They do have a tough defense. If he struggles against the Jets, that is your chance to go buy low. Because now that Aiden O'Connell is the quarterback, that offense is running through Josh Jacobs because they can't get the ball. They can't get the ball to Devontae Adams. They can't do it. They're trying, maybe barely. They are trying, but they can't do it. They can't do it with Aiden O'Connell. They can't do it with that offensive line. So that offense is going through Josh Jacobs. He's going to see a ton of carries. In the 2 starts from Aiden O'Connell, Josh Jacobs is seeing far more carries in those games than he's seeing in the other games. And now I know last week he had 0 targets, but they were blowing out the Giants from the first snap of the game, basically. So they're playing from ahead. I think they only dropped back 23 times or so. So there weren't, there was no reason to be passing with Josh Jacobs. In future games, they're not going to have that opportunity to play from ahead like that every week. It's still the Raiders. So they're going to be playing from behind, which, okay, maybe a few less carries. Less back. Aiden O'Connell's first start earlier in the season, I believe it was like week 2, week 3, week 4, somewhere around there. Josh Jacobs had 11 targets in that game. 11 targets, and he led the Raiders in receiving yards. That's not a huge, obstacle to get over this year because, like I said, Devontae Adams is just, they're not getting him the ball. But it's still 80-something receiving yards in that game. It tells you, again, this team is going to rely on Josh Jacobs in that offense rest of season, even if he's not as efficient, he's not running as dominant. The offensive line is struggling compared to what everything was going for last year. But he's going to get there on volume. So fire up Josh Jacobs as the RB6 this week. And we're going to fire up Saquon Barkley, another guy who the offense is completely going through. The Giants offense is Saquon Barkley. That's it. Tommy DeVito at quarterback now. I don't know when, if at all, we're going to get to see Tyrod Taylor back. I don't remember what his injury is, to be honest with you. But as of right now, it's Tommy DeVito and really bad, including Saquon. So, because, I know he's going to see a ton of touches, but the offense is so bad, it's so inefficient. The offensive line is awful. That's going to continue to cap Saquon Barkley. And you know what? If he keeps seeing the amount of touches that he is seeing in these games with Tommy DeVito at quarterback, he's going to get hurt again. I'm sorry, I hate to tell you, he's going to get hurt again. So I'm comfortable starting him as an RB1 this week, as the RB8 on the week, just based on that volume. But if I have him, I am urgently putting him on the trade block. And he's probably going to have a hard time against Dallas this week. He's going to have a hard time. But he could literally see 40 opportunities in this game, so we have to start him as an RB1. Derrick Henry comes in as my RB9. He's been outsnapped by Tajay Spears in 50% of the Titans games. That is concerning because we are so used to such high volume, elite volume for Derrick Henry. And it's just not there this year. Because they got to keep working in, they want to keep working in Tajay Spears in the passing game, getting him some other opportunities. And that offensive line is so terrible. Now, I think Will Levis will help open up things in that offense a little bit more. So we could see an uptick in efficiency for Derrick Henry. But if they're going to continue to use Tajay Spears the way they're using Tajay Spears, it's going to be hard for Derrick Henry to get there for what we're used to seeing from him. Now, another guy who is very much disappointed this year could be possibly the biggest bust of 2023 so far. It's hard to call him a complete bust, and that's Tony Pollard. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think Tony Pollard is a bust completely? I know he's been a major disappointment. That we can't argue. But I don't know if he's quite qualifies for a bust. It's hard. I guess he does, because if you were drafting him at the end of round 1, early to mid of round 2, he's not coming anywhere close to returning the value. So he's a bust, but he's a light bust because he's still getting significant opportunity. He's seeing a ton of red zone opportunities. He's seeing opportunities in the passing game, opportunities in the running game. He's got no competition in that backfield. It's just been so inefficient, ineffective. And I think a lot of that is the play calling, the coaching staff. They are just trying to bang him into the back of the offensive line, run him up the middle. They're not getting him to the edge. They're not getting him into space like Kellen Moore was scheming him into last year. And I really don't like to, fall back on coaches with my analysis on players, but I do think that is part of what is happening. It's not the full story, but it is part of what is happening in Dallas right now with Tony Pollard. However, this week he gets the Giants. And if he can't go off and have a top 10 running back performance against the Giants, it's over. It's over. And it's over for good, over. But I think he will. I think he'll be an RB1 this week. I think he'll get a lot of opportunity. They're going to be playing from ahead. And the Giants defense is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So I think this could be a get right Tony Pollard week. I'm hoping. Staying in that same lane. We're going to stay in that same lane with Bijan Robinson, who is my RB11 for the week. Is it crazy to still rank him as a top 12 running back? I mean, am I allowed to victory lap, by the way? That I told you that not only to not draft Bijan Robinson in the first round this year, but I said he was literally the worst pick in the first round this year. Now, when I made that video and article, and I wrote that, to me it felt a little hyperbole, a little dramatic. I'm gonna be a little dramatic for the show, saying he was the worst, but it's actually coming true. I was more right than I wanted to be and more right than I thought I was. Yeah, it's been bad. But he's been great. And that was never the argument. It was never, oh, I don't think Saquon's good enough. Bijan's good enough. That was never the case. Never. When I made that video, I literally said at the beginning, hello, disclaimer, this guy is damn good. He's going to have a good season. He's going to have a great career. Elite prospect, elite running back. Talent. But I was worried about the offense. I was worried about the usage. I talked about how Tyler Algier was not just going to go away. Now, I certainly didn't expect what we're seeing. But to this level, at least, I expected some of it, but not to this extreme. It's been bad. It's getting to the point where it almost feels like Arthur Smith is just saying, you know what? Everybody's trying to tell me how to use players. I'm the one in the head coaching seat. I got the power. I feel like it's a power trip. At this point, it's gotten to be a power trip for Arthur Smith. He's like, you know what? You're trying to tell me I should use this guy? So I'm just not going to use him because I can. Not because it's best for our football team. Not because Tyler Algier is better. Not because I'm trying to win games. It's because I can. And you can't. You don't have a say in this. I do. I'm going to make the rules. That's the vibes I'm getting right now from Arthur Smith. And it's making me pull out the last few hairs that I have left. It's just it's insane. But I don't have any Bijan, so it doesn't hurt me that much. However, I say all that to get to the point of I think Bijan Robinson right now is a buy low opportunity. I really do. Because I don't think this usage is going to continue. I really, really, really don't. And maybe I'm crazy for thinking that. Maybe I'm crazy for feeling that way. Maybe I'm giving Arthur Smith a little too much credit that he's going to smarten up at some points and start using Bijan Robinson. But if you look at his playoff schedule, it's one of the best playoff schedules for running backs in the league. And we all know Bijan is talented, super talented, and he's shown that with his play on the field when he's been out there. He's super efficient, one of the more efficient running backs in the league this year in both the running game and the passing game. So all he needs is Arthur Smith to crank up the dial on his usage just a little bit, 20%, turn it up just a little bit, and we could have a really, really, really productive RB1 through the last 6 weeks of the season or so. And if he cranks it up even more, Bijan Robinson could be a league winner. But he's been RB11. Going against the Cardinals this week, I think we'll just get a rusty Kyler Murray. So that rounds out top 11 running backs. Real quick from Gerald. He's a friend of the show, always popping in on our shows. I saw he was on Steven and Ryan's show asking them a question as well. He's asking, half PPR, choose one running back and one wide receiver and one flex. So we got Deebo Samuel, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Joe Mixon, and Jahmyr Gibbs. So we need one running back. Let's choose the running back. So let's go Joe Mixon. He's actually the next running back that we're going to talk about here in the rankings. So he's my RB12 for the week. Great matchup going against the Texans this week. Although the Texans defense has been not that bad. They really haven't. I feel like they've been exceeding expectations. But the Bengals offense is back. Joe Burrow is back, which is just great news for Joe Mixon, because they're going to have more plays, more opportunities in the passing game, in the running game, more opportunities in the red zone. That's going to be great news for Joe Mixon. Fire him up as the RB12. Gibbs, I do like Gibbs for sure. But I think we gotta knock him down the rankings a little bit this week with David Montgomery coming back. I do expect Montgomery to come back pretty close, maybe not fully all the way back to where he was prior to his injury as far as usage, but I think he's going to get pretty close. He's going to be right back in that workhorse chair, seeing a ton of running opportunities between the carries, in the red zone, at the goal line. He'll be right back to leading this team in carries. And then we're going to choose wide receiver. So we got Debo, we got Kirk, and we got Deontay Johnson. So for me, that comes down to Kirk or Deontay Johnson. And we haven't gotten to the wide receiver rankings yet, but we'll definitely talk about probably all three of these guys. And looking at the wide receiver rankings, I actually have Christian Kirk and Deontay Johnson ranked back-to-back. I got Christian Kirk as the wide receiver 13. He's got a little bit of a difficult matchup going against the 49ers. But Deontay Johnson, going against the Packers, the Packers have been pretty good defensively, not offensively, defensively. And that, you compare the two offenses, the Jaguars and the Steelers, it's just night and day. I know the Jaguars have underwhelmed a little bit compared to what we were expecting. We were expecting that offense to kind of take a leap to be, maybe borderline elites. They haven't gotten to that point, but the Steelers' offense is far from it. It's been pretty bad. So we're going to play Christian Kirk over Deontay Johnson as the wide receiver, and then the flex that leaves Deebo Samuel, Deontay Johnson, and Jahmyr Gibbs. I think we're going to go with Deontay Johnson. Although, man, it's hard not to play Jahmyr Gibbs because he's not just going to go away. And he's so explosive. Man, that one's tough. All right, flex is tough. I think we got to go Deontay Johnson, though. I really do. I think we got to go Deontay. But I really want to play Gibbs, but I think we got to go Deontay. He's been consistently seeing a ton of targets over the last few weeks. And like I said, with Gibbs, Montgomery coming back is definitely going to play a significant role, and is going to put a pretty significant dent in Jahmyr Gibbs' opportunity in that offense. I got a couple more questions here we'll get to real quick, and then we'll continue with these running back rankings. Pick one to start out of these three: Kenneth Walker, Tank Dell, or Javonte Williams. This is full PPR league. Thanks for the help. So I think for me, I still got to lean Kenneth Walker, but there are concerns. There are major concerns because over the last 2 weeks, Zach Charbonnet has outsnapped Kenneth Walker. Now, Kenneth Walker's still seeing the majority of the touches. Kenneth Walker still got about a 65% rushing share in that backfield last week. However, that is down from about 80% from where it was, over the first 6 weeks or so. So it's definitely, he's coming back down. Charbonnet's coming up. I think we could get to a pretty even 50-50 split at some point. But I think I'm going to roll with Kenneth Walker here. Even though Tank Dell is going to be operating without Nico Collins, and he looked really, really good last week, and he's looked really, really good in multiple weeks, but there's also been weeks where Tank Dell just disappears in that offense. And it's not because you can't see him. He's just one of these he's a rookie. He's a small, undersized guy, and he's got a rookie quarterback who is not playing like a rookie, but he's still a rookie quarterback. I think there's a little volatility here with Tank Dell that maybe we shy away from if we have an option like a Kenneth Walker. I want to see Tank Dell put up weeks like he did last week, back to back, multiple weeks before I say he's a must play over a guy like Kenneth Walker. Now, Javonte Williams, I'm not playing him. He's definitely the third option here. I do want to touch on his role and his usage has been on the rise over the last several weeks before the bye week. So he could have a nice second half of the year. But we're going Kenneth Walker here. And one more question before we get back to these running back rankings. Half PPR, Tank Dell, who we just talked about, or Terry McLaurin. This one's a little bit closer for sure. Terry McLaurin is getting Curtis Samuel back in the mix tomorrow, which is bad news for, not so bad for Terry. It's okay. But it's definitely bad news for Jahan Dotson. Now, looking at Tank Dell versus Terry McLaurin, I am going to go Terry McLaurin here. I am going to go McLaurin. For a lot of the same reasons that we just talked about with Tank Dell. Not that Tank Dell's a bad start. I'm looking at my wide receiver rankings right now. He's a wide receiver 26. He's a great play. But I'm going to roll with Terry McLaurin. All right, let's get back to the running back rankings. Then we got a few more questions we'll get to after that. All right, so we already talked about how the RB12 is going to be Joe Mixon. We already kind of went into depth with that because we had a Joe Mixon question. So we'll just slide him up here. I think we'll start a new tier. And we'll move on. RB13, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is another guy I talked about this week as a buy. I think he's a buy right now. Because for the first time last week, he had pretty much took that backfield back. He dealt with the injury for most of the season. And then when he came back, he was kind of ineffective and they were holding him back. It was, there was 1 week, it was still A.J. Dillon leading that backfield. And then it was more of a 50-50 split. And then it was a little bit of an edge to Aaron Jones. Last week, Aaron Jones took the big edge. He's back. He had a 24% target share. He had 20 carries. Which is really, really a great sign that Aaron Jones is fully back and that they are realizing, and we got to lean on Aaron Jones. We got to get Aaron Jones to football because he's our most explosive player on offense. And I know we got Christian Watson, who's very explosive, but we can't the ball. So Aaron Jones, RB13. We already talked about David Montgomery. I believe he's going to pretty much get right back in the mix here. Pretty close to what his workload was prior to his injury, but not quite all the way because Jahmyr Gibbs has just been that good. So, prior to the injury, I probably would have had Dave Montgomery ranked as a top 10 running back. I think we got to knock him down a little bit here to RB14. Kenneth Walker, we also just talked about on one of the questions, so we can kind of just cruise through him. He is the RB15 for the week. Then we get to RB16. RB16, my guy, Rachaad White. Rachaad White is happening. He is happening. It took him some time to get going. He is happening. And it's not happening in the run game necessarily, but it's happening in the receiving game, which is why we were drafting him. He is a top 5 receiving running back in the NFL. This guy was an elite receiving running back prospect coming out of Arizona State last year. He led them in rushing in his last season there. He was second in receiving yardage share or receiving share. He was second in receiving something, but he was excellent coming out as a receiver. And with the Bucs trailing in a lot of games, or not leading in a lot of games, that's for sure, they're checking down the ball quite often to Rachaad White, and they're starting to realize, like, hey, this guy is a really good receiver. We got to start getting him the ball more in the passing game. And it's really paying off for fantasy football right now because, and maybe he's not reaching the ceiling that we were hoping for when we drafted him. Like we were hoping, like, okay, if he can have that elite receiving profile, and then maybe he can also break through as a runner, like we got a possible league winner here. That hasn't happened. He hasn't reached the ceiling, but he's certainly vastly outplayed his ADP. Significantly blown away his ADP. His ADP is, you can't even see it anymore. His ADP is a dot way in the distance. So it's been great to see Rachaad White really coming on strong here over the last few weeks. And then we get Jahmyr Gibbs as the RB17 for the week. Slide him right up. I think he's right in the same tier. The same tier as Dave Montgomery, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, Rachaad White. He's right there with those guys. Because he's not going to go away. He's not going to go away. He's been playing great. But Dave Montgomery is back, and he's going to get a lot of carries still. So then we got Ramondre Stevenson. I think we'll start a new tier here with Ramondre. Ramondre has been getting going a little bit more in the passing game because they need him to, because I mean they started their season off with no wide receivers, then they've got even less than that now. They've got like negative wide receivers at this point. It's Demario Douglas, undrafted rookie. Like, what are we doing? Was he undrafted? I think he was a 7th round pick. I should know. I'm a Patriots fan. What the hell? Either way, it's Demario Douglas. I mean, he's played well, but I mean, he's no significant option in the passing game. Hunter Henry's dust. Kendrick Bourne is out. Devontae Parker, he's dust, and he's also injured every week. So they've got to rely on Ramondre in the passing game and the run game. He's showed a little bit more juice here over the last few weeks, which is great. He's looking a little bit more like the 2022 version of Ramondre. He's had a couple explosive runs, it's been really good. Then we'll get to James Conner. James Conner is back this week. I honestly expect he's going to get right back full workload. I don't think the Cardinals are going to be like, I don't know. I have no reason to really feel this way other than that's just how I feel, which is great analysis. Super, super in-depth. Go with your gut, right? But I just feel like the Cardinals are just going to be like, you know what, you're back. So you're fully back. You are fully full go, 100%. He's going to see 80% snaps, ton of opportunities, ton of carries, ton of opportunities in the passing game as well. It's going to be Kyler's first game back, so he's going to be a little rusty. They're going to need to lean on the run game. They're going to need to lean on checkdowns. Kyler's probably not going to be super thrilled to be running around on that knee in his first game back. Super thrilled to be standing in the pocket taking hits in his first game back. So he's going to want to get the ball out pretty quickly to James Conner on screen plays, checkdowns, swing passes, so forth, and just hand it off to him significantly. So I think we'll see a pretty good game from James Conner. If he wasn't just coming off the injury, I'd have him higher, probably in the C tier here, for all those reasons. But we'll knock him down just slightly because it is his first game back in a while. So then we'll wrap up the top 20 running backs for week 10 with Alexander Mattison, who is recapturing the full Vikings backfield now that Cam Akers is out for the year. And hate to say it, but I think he might be done for his career. That's his second Achilles, and he wasn't playing well anyway prior to it. But he was starting to take a significant portion of that backfield. And so now he's out of the picture. So that leaves Alexander Madison, the full workhorse, in that backfield once again. Not that he's efficient or anything, but they are going to have to lean on him a little bit more now with Kirk Cousins out as well. So that wraps up the top 20 running backs for week 10. So we'll get to a couple more questions, and then we will get to the wide receivers. All right. All right. Back up here. Question: if you had to pick Tank Dell or Javonte Williams, who would you pick? I would go for this week. I'd go Tank Dell. I'll go Tank Dell for this week. But I do think, like we touched on a few minutes ago, Javonte is on the up and up. I think he'll have a better second half than he did have a first half. Just the role is going to be better. We started to see that before the bye week. Noah Brown or Tyler Boyd? I'm going to go Noah Brown. With no Nico Collins, Noah Brown played really well last week. And C.J. Stroud's been awesome. He's been so good, man. And I know Tyler Boyd is without T. Higgins, but I'm gonna go with Noah Brown there. All right, new subscriber. Thank you very much, Jason. Appreciate you. Welcome to Yards per Fantasy, man. Geno Smith or CJ Stroud? We're gonna go with CJ Stroud. That's gonna be a fun game, man. It's gonna be a really, really, really fun game. Texans offense on the up and up. Bengals offense is back. Joe Burrow is back. This could be a shootout, man. Shootout between the Texans and the Bengals. CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow. CJ Stroud, maybe he's the next Joe Burrow. He's on his way. He's on his way for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely playing CJ Stroud over Geno Smith. Definitely, absolutely. Even without Nico Collins, I'm totally fine with that. Not a problem. I'm all right with it. Now, he's still a rookie quarterback, so you still have some volatility to work with there, but it's not like Geno's been lighting it up either. Like you said, Geno's been struggling. I don't know if this is true, but this is beautiful if it is. Beautiful. Unbelievable. All right. Sleepy. I feel like white should be a little higher. Wow. Yeah. We got a fellow Rashad White fan in the house. I'm excited, man. I love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, he's been doing really, really well. And I could absolutely move him to the top of that tier. Easily. I would feel so comfortable moving him up to the top of that tier. But having to rely on him catching passes rather than getting there in the running game makes me a little bit more concerned that he's just a little bit more volatile week to week. That's the only reason I have him at RB 16 or so, wherever we have him. I think it's RB 16. But yeah, right anywhere in that tier, he can get all the way up to top 12. Yeah, Colts versus Patriots is going to be ugly. Oh man, it's going to be ugly. As a Patriots fan, go Colts, baby, go Colts. Let's get this draft pick, man. Let's go get a quarterback, and a lot of other issues to solve as well. But yeah, we talked about that a little bit at the top of the show here. It's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be ugly. What's up, Steven? What's up? I was able to catch first half hour or so of you guys' show. I had it on in the background here on the TV as I was getting set up for mine. So, and always enjoy you guys. The chat is always going, guys, for you guys. People love your show. They do. And I can't blame them. I enjoy it. Question. No T. Higgins this week, so we're going to go Amari Cooper or we're going to go Chris Godwin. I do have Amari Cooper ranked fairly significantly higher than Chris Godwin. So I do think Cooper might have a little bit of a tougher matchup, and he's on the road. And he's on the road. And we know the home road splits with Amari Cooper, but I am going to go Amari Cooper. He's just been, I feel like he's been a better option than Chris Godwin this year. Maybe Godwin's been a little bit more of a, maybe giving you a little bit higher of a floor, but Cooper has a higher ceiling at this point, at least from what we've seen to this point in the season. So I'm going to go with that guy who could get me, a 20-point week. So I'm going to go Amari Cooper. Absolutely. All right, let's get to these wide receivers. So in order to do that, we do need to shuffle around here a little. Screen sharing. And my laptop is like almost as old as me. Not exactly, but it's really old. So we may get a little glitchy here as I make this transition over. Just bear with me. Here we go. All right, here we go. Wide receivers. All right, so we're losing some pretty significant wide receivers at the top of the rankings this week with the bye weeks. No AJ Brown this week. We've had injuries. Justin Jefferson's not playing. Jamar Chase is going to be a game time decision. Where are the hell my wide receiver rankings? Here we go. All right. So yeah, that's going to make it a little bit more difficult at the top of the rankings here, but even Stephon Diggs has been on the injury report for this week, right? Although he said he's 100% playing on Monday night, so and he's got a hell of a matchup going against the Broncos. Although the Broncos defense has been much better lately, and Patrick Surtain still a pretty quality corner that he's going to have to face against, but it's still Josh Allen, it's still Stephon Diggs. I'm not worried about that. So, wide receiver one on the week is going to be Stephon Diggs. Let's drag him up here. And then wide receiver two. Now, obviously, we have some injury concerns here with Jamar Chase. Is he even going to play? We don't know yet. I would lean yes. I guess. I think he's going to play if I had to guess. But it's certainly not a sure thing by any means. But if he does play, he's got a good matchup for one, but he's also going to be without T. Higgins. So they're going to really have to lean on Jamar Chase even more than they usually do already. So I'm going to put Jamar Chase, even with the injury. I'm going to put him as the wide receiver 2 for this week. Like I said, good matchup going against the Texans. Could be a really fun game. That could be a shootout. We talked about a few minutes ago. And then we get possibly one of the hottest wide receivers over the last few weeks, CeeDee Lamb. Now, if he had been playing, I know he's got a great matchup going against the Giants. Giants defense is terrible, but we also have to consider when we make these rankings, make our lineup decisions, we also have to consider the other team's offense, right? And the other team's offense in this scenario is trash. It's about as bad as it can get. Tommy DeVito. I mean, it's going to be bad. So the Giants are going to blow them out. They're going to be leading from the get-go, and they're not going to be throwing the ball a ton. This could be a 30, less than 30, possibly passing attempt game from Dak Prescott, which obviously puts a cap on a guy like CeeDee Lamb. I still think he'll get there, but he might not have the super, week winning performance, a blowout, big time performance that we've kind of gotten from him a couple times over the last few weeks. but we'll still put him there as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is gonna be another. This could be a really fun game. Chargers, Lions. I wish they would put this game on Sunday Night Football instead of the Jets and the Raiders. Come on, but that's gonna be a really fun game in LA. It's gonna be a shootout. Lots of points scored, which could lead to a lot of opportunities in the red zone. A lot of passing opportunities. So it should be a good game for Amon-Ra St. Brown. He pretty much gets there weekly as it is. In that same game, we got Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, top 5 wide receiver pretty much every week. Just lock him in. Dude he's playing really well, and he's been, knock on wood, he's been healthy. He's staying healthy, and we better hope that doesn't change, because they got nothing else behind him. So Keenan Allen, wide receiver 5 for the week. I think we'll put him in that same tier. This is kind of like a big jumbled top tier for the wide receivers. But we will start a new tier for wide receiver 6, which is Mike Evans. Mike Evans, kind of just the same Mike Evans we've been getting year in, year out for his entire career. A little volatile week to week, a little touchdown dependent, but he gets there. He gets there more often than not. And I give him a lot of credit, because I was very wrong on him. I was out. I was completely out on Mike Evans this year. Actually made a video before the season, and I went through the first 10 rounds of ADP. And I said, these are the worst picks in every single round. I think Mike Evans was the only one I was wrong about. I think he was the only one I was wrong about, and I was flat wrong. And he was going late too, compared to what he used to go, going like the 6th round. I had him in there as the worst pick in the 6th round, because I thought he was done. He was over. Couldn't get there with Tom Brady last year, and now he's going to try to get there with Baker Mayfield. Well, yeah, he is. He's getting there. Wide receiver 7, and then we'll take a couple more questions if there are any. Wide receiver 7 is Brandon Ayuk, which feels high. It does. It feels high, but he's another guy who's been inconsistent, but he's played well for most of the year. And I know Debo's coming back, but they are coming up the bye. I think Brock Purdy is going to bounce back. But with the bye weeks is part of the reason why it just feels like he's higher than he normally would be, because we are missing guys with bye weeks and injuries and such. Then we get to Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman is another kind of feels the same way as Brandon Ayuk. And actually, I might put him ahead of Brandon Ayuk. What do you guys think about that? Do you think Michael Pittman should be ahead of Brandon Ayuk? I think he might. I think we might make that change right now, because I think Josh Downs is going to be out, right? Josh Downs, he didn't practice all week long, so we're going to make that move right now. And actually, I'll publish it right on the website right now, so you can see the change reflected within a couple minutes on yardsperfantasy.com in my rankings. Done. Probably take a minute to update, but it'll be there. Michael Pittman moving ahead of Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, Josh Downs, I fully expect to be out this week. He didn't practice all week. I think he made the trip to Germany, but he didn't practice all week. So I'm concerned about that. And then we get to wide receiver 9, which was actually Adam Thielen for me for this week, which did not work out very well at all. But he's already played, so we don't have to rank him. So next is going to be Chris Olave. It's a guy who was underwhelmed all year long. But he's like the air yards king right now. Air yards king, Chris Olave. I think he's second in the league in air yards. He's underperforming in the touchdown column. He's gonna get there though. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, right? Please, yes, it's gonna happen. The targets are there. The air yards are there. It's just not connecting. He's getting touchdowns blowing off his face mask. But I do fully anticipate at some point we're going to get a stretch of 20+ point performances from Chris Olave. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It has to. Come on. All right. Let's get to a couple questions and then we will continue with the wide receiver rankings. You guys think Michael Thomas is going to play tomorrow? I know he was arrested, kind of exposed himself as a Karen. Breaking news. Breaking news. Michael Thomas is a Karen. Michael Thomas, someone parked on my street. You're parked on my street. You're parked in front of my yard. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, Michael Thomas is definitely exposed himself as a Karen this week. All right. How about this question from Woolly Mammoth? Mammoth. Half PPR. Smith. Just Smith. Just Smith. The most generic name in the world. Smith. We're just gonna assume it's Devontae Smith. Smith. Could be Geno Smith because Sam Howell's in this question. Who knows? Half PPR. Smith. Howell. Bijan Robinson. Joe Mixon. Tank Dell. Another generic name. Davis. Taysom Hill. Hopkins. Cowboys defense. What do you think? What is this? Is this even a question? It's just a lineup? So it must be Geno Smith then, because this looks like a super flex lineup. Geno Smith, Sam Howell, Bijan Robinson, Joe Mixon, Tank Dell, Davis, Taysom Hill, Hopkins, and the Cowboys defense. What do you think? I think you should start using first and last names. But I don't think you really want my opinion of this lineup, to be honest with you. I mean, Sam Howell's been outperforming his skill set, I think. Geno Smith has been underperforming. Bijan Robinson's been underperforming. I think Joe Mixon is trending up because the offense is trending up. Tank Dell is trending up, but he's volatile week to week. Davis, I mean, maybe I should know who that is just based off the last name, but it's escaping my mind. But it's just Davis. It's just a generic name. Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill's been good, man. Taysom Hill has been really good. He just doesn't go away. But he's very touchdown dependent at this point because with Juwan Johnson back, he's not seeing targets like he was there for a little stretch of the season there. He was starting to see some legitimate targets in the passing game. So those have gone away, but still going to get opportunities in the red zones. And Taysom Hill is a top 10 tight end until further notice. DeAndre Hopkins, another guy I'm not really excited to start week to week. He's going to have some weeks, and I think Will Levis gives him a better chance of him getting there. But it's still going to be volatile week to week. He's going to have his many down weeks, and we saw that last week. He had the big explosive game in Will Levis's first start, and then he comes back and he pretty much gives you a dud in the second start. So that's what we're going to get from DeAndre Hopkins week to week. And I think we'll get more duds than we do the big boom weeks. All right. Gabe Davis. All right, here we go. Gabe Davis is kind of same thing. Volatile week to week. He's going to give you a nice week one week. He's going to give you a 0 the next week. But I mean, if he's going to give you 20-point weeks, we gotta start him, right? I don't think he's a special wide receiver talent by any means, but he's a wide receiver too in the Josh Allen Bills offense. But yeah, I mean, he's solid, but he's more of a guy I would feel much more comfortable playing in a best ball format than I would in a week to week, especially with this lineup in particular, where you have a lot of other volatile players as it is. you're just going to add another one in there. It's tough. But if they all hit in 1 week, look out. But the chances of that happening are probably pretty low. All right. Deciding vote. Tiebreaker here. Deciding vote. Mark Andrews or Sam Laporta. We gotta go Mark Andrews, right? Sam Laporta has been great. Mark Andrews, tough matchup. I don't care. We're gonna go Mark Andrews. This one's pretty easy for me. As much as I like Sam Laporta, they're both top 3 tight ends this week. And Laporta has a better game environment, probably a better matchup. But Mark Andrews is the king until further notice. And further notice has been Travis Kelce comes back. But this week, Mark Andrews is the tight end one. Should I trade Aaron Jones and Tua for Breece Hall and Kyler Murray? I get the Hall side. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd do that. Yeah, let's go get Breece Hall. I do think Aaron Jones is a buy. And Tua has been great. But yeah, I would do that. I would do that deal. Brandon's asking Tank Dell or Devontae Adams. Oh man, I think I'm still going Devontae Adams. I do have him ranked ahead, but I absolutely could not blame you for starting Tank Dell. I could not blame you. And honestly, I wouldn't even try to make a case for Devontae Adams over Tank Dell. I'm gonna still start Devontae Adams, but I don't feel great about it. I think a lot of it's based on his history. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. So if you want to, if you're leaning Tank Dell, if you have your tummy's rumbling, let's go Tank Dell. Your gut's saying Tank Dell, do it. Yeah, I that one. I'm still going Devontae, but I really don't have a strong take on that one, to be honest with you. So sorry. Arthur Smith take here from Jason says, I think the media put Arthur Smith on the hot plate. I think the second half they will use Bijan Robinson a lot more in the second half of the year. I don't think his job is in jeopardy as much as we feel like it's in jeopardy because they're still leading that division last I checked, or at least they were heading into last week. I should probably know this. But they're right there. They're in contention to win the division. But yeah, I'm hoping you're right. But we talked about this. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. I don't know if you were in here yet or not, but I kind of feel like I'm a little worried that Arthur Smith is a little pettier than we think he is, because I think this is a power trip for him. It's gotten to that point. It's not even he wants to play. He doesn't even want to play Tyler Algier over Bijan Robinson. But because people keep telling him he needs to play Bijan Robinson, it's like, fuck you. I'm the head coach. I got the power here. I make the decisions. And I'm going to play Tyler Algier only for the only reason is because I can. I can. That's it. That's it. I'm doing it because I can. And you can't. You little media guy. You can't tell me what to do. I'm playing Tyler Algier. Fuck you. I'm convinced that's what it is at this point. However, getting back to reality, I agree with you. And I talked about him in a video this week. I called Bijan Robinson a buy low. Bijan Robinson is buy low. This is the chance right now. Go buy for Bijan. Go trade for Bijan. Buy low on Bijan. Now you're definitely not spending preseason prices to go get him. No. But if you can buy low, which Bijan Robinson's fantasy managers, they are reeling right now. They're angry. They're frustrated. They're throwing their phones. They hate Arthur Smith so much, even worse than us who didn't draft Bijan. They also hate themselves for drafting Bijan, and their teams are losing because they drafted Bijan in the first round and he's not returning that value, which I told you not to do that to begin with. You're welcome. But yeah, great opportunity to go buy Bijan right now because I do think he can be a league winner. Just crank up the dials. Crank up the dials on the usage just a little bit. Good playoff schedule. You can get there. All right, but let's get back to these wide receivers. We've gotten through, the top 10 or so wide receivers. Left off as Chris Olave. Next wide receiver after Chris Olave is receiver 11 for the week, down by his situation. Terrible quarterback named Zach Wilson. Yeah, but we all know the story there. We all know the story with Garrett Wilson. DK Metcalf, also underwhelming. Although last week was his first week that he didn't score double-digit fantasy points. So he hasn't been bad. He just hasn't given us those classic DK Metcalf, explosive, 25, 30-point weeks that he's good for, multiple times per season. Those haven't come yet. But prior to last week, DK Metcalf was looking really good in the peripherals with air yards, target share. He had back-to-back games with double-digit targets. Geno Smith, kind of not fully turning back into a pumpkin, but definitely experiencing some regression this year, has definitely hurt DK Metcalf. But with the bye weeks, with the injuries, I think we still have to play DK Metcalf as a top 12 wide receiver. Then we got Christian Kirk as my wide receiver 13 for the week. I think he's right in that same tier. Christian Kirk has been consistent for the most part. He's been explosive. He's a guy who's given you 20-point weeks. He's scoring touchdowns, making plays down the field, making plays after the catch. He's the best wide receiver in Jacksonville. As I told you, he would be. You're welcome. Deontay Johnson has also been playing really well. I kind of forgot how good he was, to be honest. I kind of a little slightly forgot how good he really was. He finally found the end zone. He's back, scored a touchdown. It's a miracle. And I think this could be one of these cases where the dude doesn't score a touchdown for 2 years, and then he's going to score like 5 touchdowns in 5 games or something, So I think he's going to get hot in a touchdown column. So we'll play him as wide receiver 14 this week. DeAndre Hopkins, we talked about him a few minutes ago, so we don't really need to go too deep on him. I think we'll start a new tier with DeAndre Hopkins. He's my wide receiver 15 for this week. Will Levis is definitely good news for DeAndre Hopkins, but it's still a rookie quarterback. It's still this guy who's going to be hot and cold week to week. And I think DeAndre Hopkins' fantasy production will reflect that, and it already has. He had that big 3-touchdown, huge game. Will Levis' first start, and he didn't give you much of anything in Will Levis' second start. So it's going to be up and down for DeAndre Hopkins, but he has the best chance to succeed, I think, with Will Levis at this point. So this is good news for him. Wide receiver 16 is Terry McLaurin. I think we talked about him earlier as well. We had a question about Terry McLaurin. Sam Howell has been, at least for fantasy purposes, has been vastly exceeding expectations. And the last few weeks, at least, Terry McLaurin has been a good beneficiary of it. Curtis Samuel's back this week, which definitely hurts things. But I do believe it hurts Jahan Dotson more than it does Terry McLaurin. Then we got Jordan Addison, who, thank the football heavens, the fantasy football heavens, if you have Jordan Addison, because Josh Jobs is saving the day right now. because Jaron Hall was gonna tank Jordan Addison. Now, I do believe even with Josh Dobbs at quarterback, once Justin Jefferson's back, which is probably going to be next week, it's going to be tough for Jordan Addison to be a consistent producer for fantasy. He's going to go from a guy that we're starting weekly as a wide receiver 2 to a guy that we're not going to even feel that great playing in our flex. But right now, he's got another week without Justin Jefferson. So we're going to play him as a wide receiver 17. I just don't know. Like, Josh Dobbs is good. Don't get me wrong. He's fine, but let's not get crazy. This is a guy who's been in the league for a long time. He's been a backup for a reason. He can support one wide receiver. He's not supporting multiple fantasy starters week in, week out. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. All right, wide receiver 18, Amari Cooper. We talked about Amari as well. A little bit of a difficult matchup, and he's on the road, which we know the road home splits with Amari Cooper over the course of his career, really. Deshaun Watson was back last week, which was good, I guess. And he did look a little bit better. He did look a little bit better last week than he had prior to going back out with another injury or the same shoulder, I guess. So it'll be good, but this could be a dud game from Amari Cooper, but he's so capable of giving you those boom weeks that we can't bench him. And it's hard to predict, somewhat hard to predict when they're going to come. Although, if I had to guess, I would say that's probably not going to be this week. But we still going to play him as a top 20 wide receiver. Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown is getting Kyler Murray back, which is fantastic news, especially after we saw Clayton Tune last week. Oh my, he is not ready to play NFL football. 58 total yards offensively, not passing, not running, offensively. 58 yards. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. Welcome back, Kyler. Now, Kyler's going to be rusty. Absolutely rusty. Can't convince me otherwise. The dude hasn't, you can't blame him for being rusty. Dude hasn't played football in over or almost a year. I know he's been practicing, but practicing versus actually playing in a game, it's night and day. Night and day. It's not comparable. I mean, it's good that he's been practicing for a few weeks, but he didn't play in the preseason. He didn't play in training camp. And I mean, even the last few weeks, he probably wasn't getting the full reps with the ones because they had to prepare Josh Dobbs and they had to prepare Clayton Tune to play those weeks. So it is still good news to get Kyler back, but I think we got to give him a few weeks to kind of knock the rust off and trust the knee again and just kind of get back into football mode, actually game mode for Kyler. Because Marquise Brown last year, in the games that those two played together, Marquise Brown was wide receiver 8. So he averaged like 18 fantasy points per game. It was really, really good. So it'll be great to get those two back together. Let's get to a couple questions before we get to these last couple of wide receivers, and then we'll wrap up the show for the night. All right, let's take this one from Ray. Well, maybe we don't take this one because we don't talk about kickers or defenses here on this show. So let's skip to Ray's second question. All right. But by the way, Cowboys kicker Aubrey in that first question. Dude is good. Legit good. Yeah, you play him, I think. Yeah, I think you play him. And then Raiders defense against the Jets or the Colts defense against the Patriots. I'm going to play. I know. I said we weren't going to answer this question, but I feel too bad not to. I think we'll play. It's tough because I think we'll play the Raiders defense because the Jets offense is more susceptible. Are they though? I think they are. They're a little bit more susceptible to sacks and to interceptions, slightly more than. Although the Patriots have been really bad with that as well. But the Raiders have Max Crosby. Let him loose and just destroy that terrible Jets offensive line that keeps getting more and more injured. And Zach Wilson. Let's play the Jets. I mean the Raiders. All right. Let's get to the real question though. How are we feeling about this lineup in standard? Oh, we're ranking another lineup. Let's hope this guy uses first and last names. And we're going to live that down, Willie Mammoth. All right, Dak Prescott versus the Giants. Chris Olave versus the Vikings. Metcalf, Barkley, Brees. No, Brees Hall is a Jet. I think that's still Brees Hall. Am I? Yeah, that's definitely Brees Hall versus the Raiders. He's on the Jets. Taysom Hill versus the Vikings. Dave Montgomery versus the Chargers. I think we're feeling pretty good about this lineup. Olave's been underwhelming. Metcalf's been underwhelming. Barkley's got a tough matchup, but the offense is going to go through him. Brees Hall, definitely offense going through him, but the offense also holds him back. Taysom Hill, Dave Montgomery. Yeah. I mean, I'm not super excited about this lineup, to be honest, actually, now that we kind of talk it through, but it certainly has upside for sure. It can get there, but I think a lot of it is just a couple of players who are underwhelming, a couple tough matchups, couple just bad offensive situations. Like if we look at Barkley and Hall, their offenses are just so bad that it caps their ceiling, even if they're getting significant workload and they're significantly talented, but it just holds them back so bad. Are we frozen? I think we might be frozen. We're back. Are we frozen there a minute? I think we froze up. Froze up on my end. Yeah, I don't love that lineup, but I don't hate it either. Yeah, versus Raiders. Yeah, I figured. Started TJ Hawkinson over Taysom Hill last week. I did win though, but I might play Hill over Hawkinson this week in standard. I wouldn't do that. I'm still playing TJ Hawkinson. He's just a target machine. He's a target machine. He's going to get the targets week to week. And Taysom Hill is touchdown dependent. And he's been getting them. But I trust Hawkinson a lot more there, for sure. Josh Dobbs or Baker Mayfield? This is a good question. Baker's been playing well, kind of. Josh Dobbs has been playing well. But it's still Josh Dobbs and it's still Baker. So they're both capable of not playing well. I'm going to go Baker. I'm going to go Baker Mayfield against the Titans. Titans have been pretty susceptible to the pass, and they've been pretty good against the run. And the Bucs can't run the ball anyway. So I think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. Maybe we get a good Will Levis game, and that game becomes a shootout. I think that's probably more likely to happen in that game than it would in the Saints and Vikings game. So I'm going to I have a slight edge to Baker Mayfield. I'm looking at my quarterback rankings right now. I have Baker as a QB 13, which feels gross, feels high. But again, with the bye weeks, it's just how it is. And Josh Dobbs is a QB 15. We also have to factor in, I know Josh Dobbs came off the bench last week, his first game with the Vikings, and he played well. He did. He really did. But he's still brand new to that team. And it's still Josh Dobbs. Like, come on. Let's not get too crazy with Josh Dobbs. So I'm going to go Baker. All right, let's wrap up these wide receiver rankings. We got a couple more to talk about. Then we'll get out of here. We will be back. Answer start-sit questions tomorrow, but keep them coming because we do have a few more minutes to talk about this. Go through these wide receiver rankings, and if there are more questions, we'll hit them at the end of the show. So keep them coming. Appreciate everybody who's tuning into these. All right, so we left off at Marquise Brown as the wide receiver 19. Actually, I think it's really the wide receiver 18 if we factor in Thursday Night Football, guys. Uh, um, all right, so next is Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, he's kind of been a victim of Geno Smith coming back down to earth. And he hasn't fully turned back into a pumpkin. He hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been good like he was last year. But the Washington secondary has been really susceptible to the pass this year. They've been giving up a ton of fantasy points to wide receivers. So I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett as the wide receiver 19. Then we'll wrap up the top 20 wide receivers with Devontae Adams, who is just at this point, he's only in the top 20 because it's Devontae Adams. I mean, he's at some point he's going to get a good game. It's going to happen at some point, but tough matchup, rookie quarterback, bad offense. It's just a really bad situation all the way around. But they are trying to get him the football. At some point, it's going to happen, but this is probably not the week. And I know we had a question earlier: do we play Tank Dell over Devontae Adams? And I had a hard time saying yes to that. But man, I don't feel good with Devontae Adams here at this spot. I really don't. I think we got to move him down further. I really do. I think we're going to do it. The matchup, the offensive situation, I just don't feel like Devontae Adams is worth putting in the top 20 wide receivers. Am I wrong for that, feeling that way, guys? Like, let me know. I think we're going to make we already made a change to the rankings live on the air. We're going to make another one right now, I think. We're going to move Devontae Adams down. Multiple spots. I'm going to move him down. Man, I had that question earlier about Tank Dell, and this is one that's fucking me up. I think we move him down below Tank Dell. I think we do. Wide receiver 26. See you later. So that moves Deebo Samuel into the top 20 wide receivers for me. And you can see this change in the rankings reflected on yardsperfantasy.com. I am hitting the publish button as we speak. It does take a couple minutes to reflect, but by the time we wrap up the show, you'll be able to see that where I just moved Devontae Adams down the rankings. And we just can't get there with Devontae. Just can't. Can't play him, right? We just can't play him. It sucks. Because I think he still has it. I know he's 30 years old, but he still has it. It's just the rest of what's going on there. And he should be quarterback proof, but man, it's really bad. Hey, thanks, Ray. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Absolutely appreciate you. All right. Let's get to the last couple of questions real quick, and then we'll get out of here. Already gone for almost an hour and a half. All right, should we drop Christian Watson? Man, it depends on what you're picking up. It depends on the size of your league and so forth. But the fact that we even having this conversation and it's a legitimate question really tells you how bad things have gotten in there in Green Bay. And I was worried about this with Christian Watson. I talked about it at the end of last year. He was one of my biggest sells in Dynasty. He was so touchdown dependent for his fantasy production last year. It was touchdown. And it was great to see him score that many touchdowns. And as a rookie, that's exciting. But it's the same thing that we're seeing with Jahan Dotson. It's happening to both of these guys. Both of them were scoring touchdowns at a ridiculously high rate last year while not really commanding a high target share. And that's a dangerous game to project that those guys are going to move forward and continue to score those touchdowns at the same rate, but also evolve their game to the point where they are commanding targets. So yeah, I do think in some circumstances, Christian Watson is droppable. He's not establishing himself ahead of the pack, ahead of Romeo Dobbs and even Jaden Reed to in a significant way that we would expect him to, right? And I think that Steelers Packers game is going to be pretty ugly. I think it's going to be pretty ugly. But the only thing about Christian Watson is he is capable of giving you that 3 catch for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns type of game. He has that in his skill set. That's the only concern that I have with dropping a Christian Watson. But if you're not going to start him, because we don't know when that game, if that game is even going to happen, it's impossible to predict when it's going to happen. So, Raiders D, Colts D, or Bucks D? I think we talked about Raiders versus Colts earlier. We went with the Raiders defense, a slight edge. Because Max Crosby is going to destroy. He's going to destroy the Jets' offensive line. He's going to destroy Zach Wilson. That offense is really susceptible to turnovers and to sacks, and that's where we get our fantasy points. So that's what I'm going to do. I would go the Raiders defense there, but I'm not the best guy to ask for defense and kicker questions because I don't play in any leagues that have defenses or kickers, and I also don't rank them either. So I'm a little out of touch when it comes to answering those types of questions. But now let's move on to this one from DJV, non-PPR league. People still play non-PPR leagues? Interesting. Actually, I think we had a few questions on standard leagues earlier. Jordan Addison or Terry McLaurin? Actually, I think I have them. We talked about both of them. Actually, you can see them on the screen here. I have them ranked back to back. I have Terry McLaurin one spot ahead of Jordan Addison. Terry McLaurin is my wide receiver 16 for the week. Jordan Addison is my wide receiver 17. We'll give the slight edge to Terry McLaurin, but they are in the same tier, as you can see right here in the middle of the screen. Right, KJ Osborne is out, but I believe Curtis Samuel, unless something has changed in the last little while, Curtis Samuel is playing. Oh, wow. And Josh Downs is expected to play, which that surprises me. I'm looking at some news reports right now. Because Josh Dobbs didn't, I mean, not Josh Dobbs, Josh Downs didn't play all week. I mean, didn't practice all week. I'm all thrown off here. Josh Downs didn't practice all week, but he's still going to play, it looks like, according to Adam Schefter. But I believe Curtis Samuel is back, which I'm not that concerned about for Terry McLaurin anyway. And I don't think KJ Osborne really matters for Jordan Addison that much either, because Jordan Addison was operating as a wide receiver 1. But yeah, I'm comfortable playing both these guys. They're both top 20 wide receivers. Like I said, they're back to back for me. I'm going to give the slight edge to Terry McLaurin. We're going to remember Josh Dobbs is playing. He just got to Minnesota. I know he played well last week, but it is Josh Dobbs, and he's new to the team. That's a really hard job to take that quickly. He's a really smart dude, so he can pick up offenses really quickly. But slight edge, Terry McLaurin. All right, we spent way too much time on that question. Let's quickly wrap this thing up here. Another non-PPR question. Wow. Thoughts on starting Aaron Jones? It's 2023. We're still playing non-PPR. Maybe it's like like sometimes, like, actually all the time, we see trends come back from like the 80s and the 90s, like styles and stuff. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe non-PPR is coming back. Interesting. Thoughts on starting Aaron Jones or Ramondre Stevenson this week? Yeah, so we're going to play Aaron Jones. We talked about both these guys earlier in the show, so I'm not going to go too deep. Yeah, Aaron Jones over Ramondre. Aaron Jones got ramped up last week. He's finally back to his full role. They're like, no more, no more AJ Dillon. We're done with this guy. He had 24% target share. His snap share was up significantly. 20 carries. Aaron Jones is back. I think they've recognized that, hey, our quarterback's not good. Our offense is not good. Aaron Jones is really the only explosive element in this offense that we can reliably get the ball to. We got to fire up and lean on Aaron Jones. Yeah, I didn't know Josh Downs was playing either until I literally just looked at a couple notifications from Adam Schefter because I was surprised. I took him off the rankings, not all my rankings at all. We're going to have to add him back in. Because I looked at the practice report before we went live. So I was updating the rankings. He didn't practice all week. So usually 90% of the time when that happens, the guy doesn't play. Didn't even have a limited practice. He did not practice every single game. It's late. I can't talk anymore. Every single day. And when that happens, these guys don't play. Sounds like Downs is going to play. All right. But going back to that, I'm still going to play Terry McLaurin over Josh Downs, especially with the injury. All right. I think that's a good place to wrap this up. We will be back at 12:20 tomorrow, and we'll go live answering questions all the way up till kickoff. All right. We just got 2 more questions. We'll get to them real fast. We got to get to the people. We'll do it for the people. No sleep. Who needs sleep? Who needs sleep? All right. Real quick. Kenneth Walker, Rashee Rice. That's a trade question. Kenneth Walker and Rashee Rice for Bijan and Curtis Samuel. I got offered that, but I don't know. I love Rashee, and I am taking a risk with Bijan. Huge risk upside. I'm 6-3, and I think that's a big part of it. 6-3. Yeah, I talked about. So I actually made a trade video this week. Actually, I make one every week, but I talked about Bijan as a buy low, and I talked about Kenneth Walker as a sell. So I kind of like this deal here. I do like this deal. Because it is a risk for sure, absolutely. But the way things are trending, all right, the way things are trending with Kenneth Walker, the reason why I'm trying to sell him right now and putting him on the trade block is because over the last 2 weeks, Zach Charbonnet has outsnapped Kenneth Walker. Now, Kenneth Walker is still led in carries, right? But prior to the last 2 weeks, Kenneth Walker's running back rush attempt percentage in that offense was about just under 80%. Using 80% of the running back rush attempts. Over the last 2 weeks, that has dipped down to 65%. Now, it's still a significant number. It's good, but it's coming down, and that's a concern. And over the last 2 weeks, Zach Charbonnet has seen 3 of the 4 red zone carries for the Seahawks. He also ran more routes than Kenneth Walker last week. So that's a concern. This is turning into a split backfield. It's going to be about a 50-50 split, I think, when things all shake out here over the next few weeks. That concerns me for Kenneth Walker. Bijan, obviously, we have tons of usage concerns, tons of them. And this is why it's a huge risk to make this deal. But I'm going to do it because I think Bijan can turn into a league winner. Because damn, he is good. Very, very good. Yes, schedule for Kenneth Walker is tough, but when you look at Bijan's schedule, on the other hand, it's like night and day. It's the other way around. Bijan has a really nice playoff schedule. I talked about it in the video. I forget off the top of my head who it is, but his playoff schedule is really, really nice. So if Arthur Smith gets off his high horse and is like, you know what, maybe we should actually play Bijan. Maybe we should. And he cranks up that usage. Bijan could be a league winner. Could be. And I think when you look at Rashee Rice and Curtis Samuel, it's almost a wash. Almost a wash. I would lean slightly Rashee Rice, but Curtis Samuel has been, when he's been healthy, he's been pretty good. And Rashee Rice is still struggling to see a full complement of routes. He was almost there, but he's still seeing about 60% of the routes every week. So he's not getting a full. Whereas Curtis Samuel sees more about that 80-85% on a weekly basis. And Sam Howell's been playing well. Sam Howell's been playing really well. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but yeah, I would. I think I would make that deal. I think I would do it. Rashi for Curtis. Yeah. So yeah, I think Rashi for Curtis. I think, like I said, I think it kind of they're kind of. I don't have a significant. Where'd the comment go? I don't have a significant lean one way or another. Like I said, I would lean Rashi Rice for sure, and I think his ceiling is definitely higher because if his routes do start to go up, he could become a wide receiver 2 for you. But with the upside of a Bijan, I think I'm going to make the deal, man. Here's the deal. You're starting these 2 running backs, right? These 2 wide receivers are probably flex plays at best for you. These guys are not going to make the difference one way or the other on your team, right? You're not gonna win your league because you have Curtis Samuel instead of Rashi Rice or Rashi Rice instead of Curtis Samuel. That's not going to make the difference, right? But Bijan versus Kenneth Walker, whoever wins out, that could make the difference between you winning the league and not. All right. I think we had one more question from Evan up here. And then we're actually going to end the show. We're going to actually do it. I think. Maybe. Possibly. All right. Full PPR, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, or Drake London. Drake London's back. But he also has Arthur Smith problems. Yeah, we got to go Jordan Addison here. We got to Jordan Addison. And if you look at the screen here, our wide receiver rankings tier, Jordan Addison's wide receiver 17. Zay Flowers is even on the screen. I love Zay Flowers. But he's got a tough matchup this week. He only saw, 1 target last week, so he's still a little volatile. Yeah, we're going to go Jordan Addison there. Enjoy Jordan Addison now before Justin Jefferson comes back next week. All right. I think that's a good place, as I've said probably about 6 times. This is the actual place we're going to stop the show. Like I said, if I didn't get to your question, you can find my rankings on yardsperfantasy.com. We have a start-sit tool, which is basically just asking me a question because you can just put in this guy here, this guy there, and it's going to spit out who I have ranked higher. So that's a really cool tool that we have. yardsperfantasy.com/start-sit. And in the meantime, between the end of this show and the beginning of tomorrow's show, just jump in the Discord. Just find the Yards Per Fantasy Discord. I will answer your questions in there. We got other analysts from the team that will answer questions in there. Don't forget to catch the Coach Approach. Coach Bruce and Brett, they're going to be live on this channel 10:30 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, talking about every single game on the slate. They're going to give you their starts and sits from each game. They're going to give you who they think is going to win each game. They go really in depth, and they also will answer your questions. They get to every single question. Those guys are awesome, and I'll go live shortly after they wrap up. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys. This was probably our funnest show of the season. I really appreciate everybody's participation in the chat. Yeah, thanks, guys. Couldn't do it without you.